Our topic this morning is marketing like an entrepreneur with a focus on startups. How many here have started up something with other people or hope to sometime in their lifetime? Okay, so this is all very relevant to you. One of the biggest challenges in startups is the area of marketing. That can sink a lot of companies. Our speaker today is Dan Voetman, founder and CEO of Destination Marketing at Linwood, a very successful company. And Dan is highly qualified to speak. He's been involved in startups of 53 companies, and there's some who have really taken off, and in the brochure are well-known companies. And another reason Dan's really qualified is he tries to run an ethical company, which is difficult to find in the advertising marketing arena. He tries to apply the values of Jesus in his life and in his work, and that makes his company very distinctive. I've known Dan for a long time. He's a good friend and a great encouragement. So let's welcome Dan to this morning.
Life is an interesting thing. I think if you asked around your table and said, how did you get to where you are today? Did you have a plan and just, when you were 8 years old, you knew exactly what you're going to do and here's where you are? Yeah. Or would it be more like, well, I kind of went through this door and that door opened up and then that worked out and then there was another door and I went through that door and then this door and this door and, somehow I ended up where I am today. And I didn't even plan it, but, it's where I am. Hopefully, happily, and not the other. That certainly has been my story, that I didn't start out with an intention to end up where I am. I started up living in Africa, actually in the jungle. My dad was a pilot and flew people who had one leg chopped off by a crocodile around, or all that kind of stuff. And so as a kid, I spent my days either helping my dad fix the airplane or flying with him somewhere. So it's a pretty great life growing up as a kid. But I never imagined that I'd end up in marketing or owning a whole bunch of different businesses as time went on. So my path has certainly been that way. We've certainly never crossed paths, certainly with at least most of you, so you don't know who I am, but you might know some of the different companies that we've worked with over time. Sleep Country USA is a company we helped launch, and that why buy a mattress anywhere else is kind of my fault. So that's an example one. Another one that you might know is Car Toys, A Better Way to Go. That's another one that's my fault. There's another startup we did called Sono Bello, which is a plastic surgery company. Now they're the largest in America. They've got It's Your Life, Live It Beautifully. Anyway, that's their slogan. Now you might hear it. And done things with Jeep and Volkswagen and Remax and helped Magnolia kind of get rolling again when they had a bit of a dip and ended up getting bought by Best Buy. So I've been lucky to do a lot of things. Most of these things I never intended. Like with Sleep Country, I just bumped into Bob and Sonny Cook while we were traveling in Europe, and they had a couple little stores, and we talked about stuff, and they said, well, we're trying to figure out how to market this. Could you help figure this out? So we did the jingle and figured out a marketing schema, and over the next 4 years, they grew to 55 stores and sold the company for $33 million. So, I'm going to talk about this because I've been lucky to bump into people like them, because all you can do with marketing is take something that is inherently has good successful attributes and just let a whole bunch of people know about it and make it successful. You can't take a company that's a bad company and just because I let everybody know about it, suddenly it's going to be successful. So there are intrinsic things in these different companies, and that's really the essence of what I want to talk about today, is what are some of these things what did Bob and Sonny Cook do that made Sleep Country USA grow from nothing when it had the chance? And I've had the chance to amplify businesses, but I don't get the credit for what the things that they figured out that made them have a really good business. And those things, those elements are applicable to everybody. When John asked for a title for this today, I said, well, let's talk about marketing like an entrepreneur. And what I mean by that is when I was working with Jeep and things like that, there is so much messy stuff going on that affects the business and affects how it runs, that there's not a real clarity to what's going on. But when you have a startup, there's just such tremendous focus. It's so simple. You have limited dollars to work with, so everything has to work great. Mm-hmm. And there's just a great clarity, and so I think the lessons and stuff come out a lot clearer. So let's just talk a little bit about some of these different things. So Bob and Sonny Cook, what are the things that we learned from them? They had this hugely successful company that took off, and out of that we launched a company called Sleep Country Canada in Canada that a couple of years ago the Canadian Advertising Association did a poll, and Sleep Country Canada was the most well-known brand in all of Canada in terms of what happens. The thing that they did so well, and is applicable to just about anybody who has a business, is they were just rabidly focused on making sure that our customers have a fantastic experience when they come to the store. They were obsessive down to all the any of the light bulbs burned out. You know, does the store get dusted 2 or 3 times a day? You know, do we make sure we acknowledge every customer within 15 seconds of when they walk in the door, but don't run right over to them and make them feel intimidated? You know, there's every little nuance of the business is something they thought about and they worked on it. Sonny Cook's actually written a very interesting book, if you haven't come across, called Common Things in Uncommon Ways, which is just kind of a little recap of what are some of the things that they did that were so unusual. And what my team was able to bring to their business was 2 things. First of all, was just an understanding of what do people who are shopping for a mattress really want. Because so often in business, what happens is we have this trickle-down thing, right? We look at other companies and see what they're doing, and we just do the same things they do because what they're doing must be right. All right, so in the world of mattresses, I'll go back to 1993 when this started, everybody thought, well, the way you do it is you have to talk about Simmons and Sealy and CERT. You talk about the big brands, and that's what's all. If you let everybody know you have the big brands, they'll come and shop with you. And our assessment was, after we talked to people didn't really care that much about the big brands. What they cared about is, I don't really like to buy a mattress. I only do it under duress because I have to. It's hard to buy because I don't know what's in there, and there's 6 different boxes that are all white, that all look exactly the same, but this one's $300 and this one's $3,000. You know, is it really true that this one's worth $3,000, or is it just, those are the things that really go on, right? So if you're going to do a good job with marketing, I have to figure out, how do I answer those things so you feel like, oh, I would feel much better going to this store to buy something than just going to the Bon Marché. All right, and they've got lots of mattresses, but would I get that real personal connection in terms of what happened? And so that was the essence of our advertising. And we took Sonny, who was terrible on TV and radio in the beginning especially, and said, if we have a real person talking to who you know is not an actor or something, then that we can create a connection, especially because most people who buy mattresses are women. Let's create a connection. So my point is, think about these little things in terms of, think about who are your customers and what are the things that they really want. Not the standard stuff like, oh, well, we got more selection than anybody else, our prices are lower, blah, blah. There's all these standard things people throw out, right? And I'm not saying they're irrelevant, but maybe they're really not the questions that people are really asking if they really want to know. And then the other thing that with Sleep Country that was so important was the whole issue of getting them connected to the community and giving back to the community. And a lot of the programs we started with them, like the foster child program, are still being carried on today. In fact, with this recent Sleep Train flipping Sleep Country thing, don't get me started on that. They still have exactly the same programs that we started 20 years ago that they are carrying on, because there's a tremendous power to when you're connected back to the community. First of all, besides, there's an element where it's just a good thing to do, and I could talk more about that. But it's very powerful for your brand as a company, because at the end of the day, how do I decide between 16 different options of places to shop or companies to work with? All right, it's who do I feel the best about, who do I trust? And there's power there, and it's also a fantastic thing for your employees, because when you have a company and employees are really proud of where they work and look what we do and look how we give back. I mean, Windermere is a good example of this in terms of the days and things that you do. And at the end of the day, the thing, if you're going to have a social program or a charitable type connection, it's got to be real, right? Because anything that's not genuine will just rub people the wrong way. But anyway, that's a really important one to think about. I mentioned Sono Bello as a plastic surgery. I won't talk much about their scenario, other than the owner of the company had been part of another healthcare company. And he sold out his interests and said, okay, I got a bunch of money, I'd like to start my own company, because he'd been a partner before. And so he just was paying attention to what's coming down the line in terms of healthcare that might be a little bit different than other things that are out there. What could I be first in? That was his real goal. And so he came across a bunch of plastic surgery things that were under review by the FDA that were about to be approved, and that's how they launched what they did. And they've grown from just that first place in Seattle in 2008. Now they're in 26 cities across the country. They're the largest plastic surgery chain in America for their category of what they do. And whether you have any interest ever in plastic surgery or not, there's clearly some good lessons that he did, because you don't grow from zero to the largest in America without having some ingredients in place that are important. And one of the most important things is, anytime you can be first with something, first with a service, first with a new way to do things, first to make things more easier. You may be a bank and you say, hey, let's do all your checking online now. And make that simple. Anytime you can have something you can be first on, it's a huge benefit to your brand and to what you do. And then the second part of that, which twins along right behind it, is if you're first and then you just sit on your laurels, then you're dead in the water, right? So it's this constant evolution because anything you're doing that's good, other people around you are going to copy. It's how do you keep evolving your services? How do you keep making sure that you are unique and different in terms of things that you do? And they have done a fantastic job with that. Let's flip to so Listen Up is another healthcare. It's hearing healthcare, and I put this example in here. It's another company we started, and they in 5 years they grew to 120 locations, and we sold it off to William Demant, which is one of the largest hearing aid companies in the world, based out of Denmark. But I wanted to put Listen Up in here as an example, because what they're selling is a commodity, right? I mean, hearing aids, they all, depending whether you have Resound or you have Phonak or whatever it is, any hearing aid company I go to, they've got the same little piece of plastic with a little amplifier and the little thing that goes in your ear. So if you have a business that's a commodity where you're doing the same kinds of things as the person down the street, and you really don't have a lot of opportunity to make your product unique in terms of what you do, then what you've got to do is you've got to figure out how to make my service unique. And that's what Listen Up, the owner of Listen Up, because of the success of this startup, he was by Ernst & Young in 2010. He was a 2010 Canadian Entrepreneur of the Year because of the success of this company in terms of what happened. And what he did that was so fantastic was he looked at the hearing aid category, and he said, what's wrong with the hearing aid category? All right. Well, what's wrong with it is I don't like to go to Sears and there's this little tiny box and I got to go sit in this box, and that's kind of obnoxious. What's wrong with it is I hate batteries. I just hate the process of always running out of batteries. And it's just this whole catalog thing. And you could take your own business as well, and you could say, what for the customers I have and the things that I do, what would my customers maybe dislike? And maybe that would give me some ideas of some fresh things I could do in my business that would make it better. Because sometimes we just take for granted dealing with a bank might be a hassle because I got to do this, or this kind of things. And yet there are certain banks that have figured out, no, how do we make this? How do we change what we do in a way to make it really different? And so what Gordon Lowndes did is he really kind of thought, I'm going to reimagine hearing healthcare. So he took it out of the box, put nice retail locations in, which is unusual, had really state-of-the-art equipment, but he made it really clear that was state-of-the-art. They would have classes, so after you got a hearing aid, you come back for free classes on how to clean them and how to take care of this. They would send free batteries to everybody who got them, so for life. So if you had it, we just mail them to you. You never have to think about it on the first of the month. Your free batteries just show up. Again, just 100 little details like that then gave somebody like me all kinds of really great stuff to talk about, to say, do you have hearing aids? Here's something I bet you hate about them. Well, what if somebody would do something different? All right, and it doesn't take a whole lot of that kind of differentiation to tickle people's ears and make them think, you know what, I want to go check them out. Next time I need hearing aids, I'm going to go check out that company and do something different. And that was really the genius of Listen Up. It doesn't always have to be, it doesn't have to be something dramatic. I mean, another thing that he figured out, he said, well, a key piece for us to be successful in business is we need lots of audiologists, high quality audiologists. how could we control the flow of all the audiologists that come out of the colleges so we always get the best one? Once you get to 120 stores, you need a lot of audiologists. All right, how do we do that? So he said, well, we talked about it and said, let's create partnerships with all the schools of audiology. And then let's create internships, and we'll do paid internships. Everybody else is making them come out for work for free on weekends. We'll pay them. So where do you think all the students wanted to go? They want to go to Listen Up locations. And you don't have to spend too much time at a really nice facility. And then your next internship is going to Sears and sitting in the little box there. And where do you see yourself in the future? So it was just a little. That's why he deserved the Entrepreneur of the Year award. It's just little things like that where he would just kept thinking about his business and saying, what's another thing I can do to get a leg up on my competitors? And they got to the point where they dominated most of the new audiologists coming out of school. So it was fantastic for them.
So then, is it the accumulation of those kinds of things then that gets people's attention and draws them in to taking a look at your company or business?
Yes, because in advertising, how much do you really know about any particular company you can think of? Think of a company you love, even Nordstrom's or something, all right? How much do you actually know about them? All right? There are very few facts that you actually have at your disposal, but what makes you go to Nordstrom's? The one or two facts you do know, they'll take back anything and they won't hassle me about it. The quality is always really good. Yeah, it's expensive, but the quality's good. All right. And then probably the other part is I just feel good when I go shopping there. I have more fun. I feel better shopping there than I do maybe when I'm at Target or whatever. All right. That's brand, right? I mean, there's tons of books. You can spend a huge amount of money at Barnes and Nobles on books on brand and spend the rest of your life. But it's no more complicated than that. It's just, what do I want the people who should shop here, what do I want my prospects to know about me? The one or two or three facts, because that's all they're going to retain anyway. And how do I want them to feel about me? I want them to like me. I want them to like me better than any of the other options they have. So.
And then that shows up on Facebook on likes, right?
Lots of different ways, although Facebook's smart enough to keep changing their algorithms all the time. I'm going to skip ahead just to something else just for fun, because I put down a bunch of examples, but I'm not going to go it. I'm going to talk about products for a second. So we do I've got a lot of companies we're doing that are new products, and I just brought some examples here. So this is going to gross you out. I'm just going to apologize ahead of time, and then I'm done with it. All right. But I'm giving you these examples because they're that notion of how can we take something that everybody takes for granted and do it in a different way and make it better. So let's say you have allergies, or you work in a dusty environment. What are your options? You could put a mask on your face, and wear a mask around. Like if you go ride the Shinkansen in Japan, half the people have surgical masks on their face in terms of they went around. Or you could take that surgical mask from 3M and you could shrink it down. You could put it on something little you just put in your nose that just disappears.
Oh.
All right?
It's better than earplugs in your ears.
Yes. Yes. So that was the idea behind this company. There's dozens of situations in life, like I say, everything from allergies to whatever. I don't want to take drugs that I could do. The thing that I love about something like this is it's a problem that lots of people have, and it's just a totally different approach. All right, it's just a totally fresh way to go about and solve it. If you want to try it for yourself, you're welcome to come up here. So I would encourage you to be thinking about your business, and is there something we could do just a little bit different than anybody else, or just take a fresh approach? How I met this company is I was in a bar one night. I know that gets everybody's attention. My daughter was going to school at Pepperdine, and she was working in a restaurant, and so while I was waiting for our table, I was sitting at the bar, and the bartender asked, "What do you do?" Because that's his job, right, to start a conversation. And I said, "Well, I'm in marketing." And he said, "Oh, I've just invented something." That's what I'm going to show you next. And he said, I want to talk to you about it. And I said, "Well, what was the problem you were trying to solve?" And he said, "Well, everybody knows they should floss, but 1 out of 10 people do. And I won't embarrass anybody here by holding you on the spot. Everybody knows they should floss, but nobody does." I said, "Okay, tell me, why don't they floss?" And he said, well, nobody likes putting the string on their fingers. They don't like putting their fingers in their mouth. It's a pain in the neck. It takes a while. I can't see what I'm doing. I usually end up getting bloody gums because I slip around and do stuff. And he said, I have this idea. I'm gonna take the floss, and instead of having the floss on your fingers, I'm going to take 2 little sticks, and I'm going to put the floss between the sticks. And now I can just reach in here. Even a kid, a 5-year-old kid, can do this and floss.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, all right. I said, what's the first thing you should do? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, that's a really good idea. So even if you get a patent on it, somebody's going to try to copy it. So I said, the first thing that I would do if I were you is I would think like your competitor, and I would try to figure out how's somebody going to knock this off. And then I would make that too, or at least I would patent that. So he said, oh yeah. And my brain being what it is, that night I didn't go to sleep, and I sketched out what I would do if I was the competitor. And they ended up patenting that. And I only tell you that because in every single business, again, there's some way to do it better than what you're doing. There's some way, if you have a service, how do you schedule? How do you put your stuff together? If you have a magazine, and what do I offer as benefits to my clients? Why should they be in my magazine? What makes my magazine compelling? If you've got a service that you're selling, or you've got a product you're selling, every single thing, there's a way to make it better. There's a way to do it different. And we tend to just keep doing everything the same way that our competitors do it. We keep doing it the same way our industry has done it for years, and we don't get that critical differentiation. So, this company here, we're talking right now to Walgreens, CVS, Target, and Walmart about having this in the stores. So in another little bit, you'll see it in the stores. Every major dental company in the world now carries this product. Last year, the largest dental company in the world, they're named Henry Schein, named Gum Chucks as the best product of the year.
Gum Chucks. What a name. Is that your name?
Yeah. You get the idea. And this is the kids version, so it's got the little Gum Chucks man on the front.
Good.
Anybody need some right now?
So that my point with it is just think of all the ways that you can make your business different. And you know what? That's also super fun as well. Because when you're just doing your business the same way all the time, it's just not that exciting. But when you got something new you're working on, and you're changing it around, or you got a new way to get your customers, or you got a new way to pull things together, that makes it really exciting. So, does anybody have any questions before
I'm just going to comment. I get to use these things for my flossing. My dentist told me the last time, you get the string because that's not getting around your teeth. And that piece will get around the teeth. So
yes.
I work with dentists. I'll have to let them know about that.
In dental parlance, we say it has to make the C shape, because your teeth aren't flat, right? And so to get a piece of floss between your teeth, what do? You have to hold it really tight to get it to snap down there. And then what do? You make your hands loose because it has to wrap around your tooth as you go.
I just had a question. If you have someone like that person come to you with a product, how do you determine if it's something that you would want to take on? And then what are the steps on taking a product? I think different people have little products they started, What are the steps you take to get them launched? And how do you figure, how does a company like that figure it's financially viable to hire somebody like you for that?
So I've got another company that the Japan, and this is how I'm going to answer your question. I was working with these people. I'm going to figure out where to start. In 1978, there was a Japanese doctor who discovered something. If we take people and we put them inside a little chamber and we drop the temperature to minus 200 degrees for 3 minutes, we can cure, at least temporarily, arthritis, fibromyalgia, a whole bunch of diseases that are inflammation related. It never went anywhere except to Eastern Europe. And the East Germans, who were beating the pants off us for years in the Olympics and everything else, discovered that this thing that this Japanese doctor had done was fantastic at reducing inflammation, also for athletes, because you work out hard, right? What do you normally? You get an ice bath, you put ice on, whatever. And so this worked fantastic in that kind of scenario. Fast forward 30 years. A few American athletes, LeBron James, Steve Nash, there's a bunch of them, had heard about this and actually brought their own machines from Eastern Europe over to the U.S. It's called cryotherapy, and it's been gaining a little bit of traction now. And there's a number of basketball teams, NBA teams that have them now as well. So I'm in Arizona, and I met with somebody who wanted to start a business like that. All right, so this gets to the first point. And as I met with them, and I did the due diligence on the product, I said the product's really fantastic. The person who wants to start this business is a disaster. So, I don't know that I can work with this person. And also, the equipment that was coming out of Eastern Europe was very crude. I mean, it was basically turn this valve on and let the liquid nitrogen flow in there, and then we'll turn it off after a little bit. So it was a bit of an adventure. And minus 200 degrees is nothing to mess around with. That's colder than Antarctica in the middle of winter, right? And my first experience, anyway. So I said, you've got a great product here, but the people are bad. And one of the most important things I've learned, and I wasn't smart enough to figure this out, I read it from other people, but it's just proven to be true in my life, is that the most important thing in a successful business is not the product, like everybody thinks, right? We fall in love with the product, it's the people. Because if you don't have the right people who are willing to do whatever it takes to be successful, who will check their ego at the door, and I can go on and give you a whole list of key criteria. If you don't have the right people, it will fail every time. I lost $2.5 million by investing in a company that was absolutely fantastic, and the people were a disaster. Ultimately, because they ended up. Anyway, I don't need to go into it. Not because of the bad memories. I'm past that. But so it has to be the right people. And the second thing is, and the product has to be. I don't care if it's perfect yet, but it has to be perfectible. So, like with this cryotherapy thing. I said, this idea is fantastic. Those people spun off and did something else, so I didn't have any conflict of interest issues because they didn't want to be part of it anymore either. They went bankrupt, frankly. But I said, this idea is fantastic. So I knew a guy who was great at business operations, which is not my skill set. I talked him into getting involved with this. He'd been a client of mine that we'd helped launched a business that was very successful in Arizona, and he sold it for about $27 million. So he had money, and he had interest, and he had skill. And then I said, now we need to find somebody who can perfect the equipment. So I know another company that specializes in that kind of product, and we've spent the last year getting the machinery right, and now it looks like something out of 2001: A Space Odyssey, but it's fantastic. It's all computer controlled. You can't climb into it and start it. They unfortunately had that woman who died in Las Vegas because liquid nitrogen drives the oxygen out, right? So what they think is she, late at night after everybody else left, she started the machine, went and stood inside, probably dropped her cell phone because they found her cell phone before, reached down to pick it up, and breathed in just nitrogen and not oxygen, and probably went unconscious in about 2-3 seconds, and just ended up on the floor. So it's not dangerous at all if somebody's there and watching and you've got your head out, but it's not a good idea to breathe liquid nitrogen. So, again, just simple things like make it so I can't start the machine and be inside it. There has to be someone outside when the door is shut. I mean, these things aren't complicated, but you build them into the machinery. And so then something that you can perfect. So, right people, a really good idea that is perfectible, and then you have to figure out a market. How can I build the machinery to sell this thing? Can I readily get adoption and traction with this with the marketplace? And the good thing is that cryotherapy's got this buzz that's going, but everybody's a little leery about it. So if you can come on with a better mousetrap, and you have the bona fides to say this is super safe, you can't hurt yourself with this in terms of what happens. You have a good opportunity. And by building it in the U.S., they're selling it for $75,000 coming out of Eastern Europe. We're going to be able to build ours and have a very nice profit margin for $25 grand. And it's a machine that's far superior. But again, it's part of it. Part of it's just because you know how you design things as you build them, design them so that they can be mass produced easily. And we've got a partner in Taiwan who's going to pay for the molds for a percentage of the company. Blah 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 blah. It goes on and on. But yeah, those are the things that are important. So, yeah.
I was watching Shark Tank last night. How
That's
has that,
one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, how has that impacted how people come to you? Like when they come to you, has that had a how they approach you?
Well, there's a lot more dreamers, right? And Shark Tank makes it look like everything could be successful, and the truth of the matter is not that many things really can be home runs. And you know, to make something successful, you really have to. And so in Shark Tank, it's an all or nothing, right? I come and I pitch you my idea, and you pay me something, and it's done. All right. In the real world, the way it works better is you come up with an idea like this, and then you find the right team of people, and you figure out, how do I compensate everybody so everybody's got skin in the game, and then, you know, we can all be patient to make money, because you just don't make money on a startup right away. And you don't, you know, like gum chucks. Phillips has come to us and asked us, hey, you want to sell gum chucks? And the answer is no. Why would we sell it at this point? We have no track record of sales, so all we're selling it on is just the intellectual capital, the idea. You know, there's an optimum time to sell it, and that's true with any product idea. You need to, if you want to make the most money possible, you need to get traction, show how successful it can be, and then somebody like Phillips can look at it and say, well, with our global power, we can take what you've got and amplify it by 10 times. You can say, good, well, pay me 5 times. You know, so.
We've got about 2 minutes, Dan.
Sure. Oh yeah, is another question.
What Starbucks, and it's not a startup, but it had to start up this way, it seems to be distinctive in coffee shops in consistency of training of the people who work there. You go to one Starbucks and another, and the quality of service is very consistent, where that does not happen in a lot of other places. What is there, do you think, about launching the right quality of training for Listen Up or whatever it might be? Maybe.
So I would say there's a couple of different factors there. So if your business is structured such that you have the same people coming back over and over, then you have to have extremely consistent service. It's like in a restaurant. If you go to the Seattle Culinary Institute School, which is kind of fun to go to their restaurant, I shouldn't say this because too many people are going to go and I won't be able to get reservations. But the Seattle Culinary Institute of Seattle, at the Seattle Art Institute, has a restaurant where they train all their folks, and you can get a fantastic meal for like $25. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. I regret having said that.
There's only 40 of us here.
Yeah.
We won't tell anyone.
But and I love talking to people about their business and why it works and why it doesn't and what do you do. So I asked David, who's their head of their culinary thing, and I said, what's the biggest problem you have with your people here? And this relates directly to what you asked. He said, consistency. He said, everybody wants to be an artist. So he said, I serve the steak tonight with the asparagus this way and that, and then tomorrow night, I want to do something new. He said, customers don't want that. Mm-hmm. Okay, I came in here last night, or last week, or last month, or a year ago, and I had that steak, and I got this picture in my head of what that steak was like. I want that same experience again. Mm-hmm. He said, I have to train them how critical it is to be consistent, do the same thing. So Starbucks falls under that particular category of, I need repeatable performance because my coffee tastes different today than it did yesterday. Mm-hmm. I'm unhappy. It's a set of expectations. Mm-hmm. If you have a business where you have people, they come in much more sporadically and the experience is different, then the part of your service that has to be consistent is the quality of your service. But if my experience as a user is a little bit different, it doesn't fuss me. I'm not too worried about that. So again, it comes back to understanding what's the dynamic between me and my customers, and how do I make sure that I'm always in line with their expectations that they do. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.